Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce myself. I am Idris, a millionaire from Dubai in the US. I've been called many things: the cellist, the Dubai millionaire, the nice guy, the bad guy, the mysterious one, the lover, and yes, even the con artist, as the women in my life like to put it. Now picture this: 30 standout women, real achievers, brimming with fame, careers, and money, the whole 9 yards. Here's the kicker: 3 of them ended up pregnant, and yes, that was all my doing. Why 30 women, you ask? What's the connection? Well, I played them all, fooled them, and yes, cheated on them with each other. They were intertwined in a web of deceit they couldn't even see, until now. Well, unlike that Tinder swindler dude, I'm not just out here scamming for quick cash. My game runs deeper, way deeper. These women, they were more than just random targets. They were part of a bigger plan, my plan. Now they're all teaming up, thinking they're about to dish out some major payback. But the one thing nagging at them, keeping them up at night, it's why. Why did Idris do all this? What's he really after? Stick with me here. To get to the bottom of this, you've got to go back to where it all started. A simple piece of music, a cello, and a woman named Harper. Meet Harper, my first victim. Oops, pardon my French, my first love. I met Harper at a swanky gala filled with the who's who of the music scene. She was my first real mark. Harper stood out with her sharp smiles and power suits, radiating confidence. The thing about seduction is, it's like laying a bear trap. You don't lunge, you lure. So I made my rounds, subtly complimenting the group with a "you all look amazing" before making a quick exit. It was all about planting the idea that I wasn't just another hanger-on. This subtle introduction set the groundwork for what was to come, leveraging my newfound status to orchestrate the next phase of my plan. This is how I set the stage for my exit. Before mingling with the women, I subtly mentioned to Stephen, my friend, that I had an important meeting with Drake later that day, a complete fabrication, but crucial for the image I was cultivating. He should easily believe me, for he knew I had Drake's number. As we engaged in our initial conversation, charming and lively, I was mindful of the impression I needed to leave. After a delightful exchange, I glanced at my watch, the signal that it was time to put my planned exit into action. Turning to the group, with an apologetic and courteous demeanor, I excused myself. "Ladies, may I beg your indulgence? It has been an absolute honor to make your acquaintance this evening, and I deeply regret having to depart so soon. Might I have your permission to take my leave?" This elegant request, coupled with the hint of an exclusive meeting, was designed to leave a lasting intrigue. After this, the idea was that Stephen, having heard my earlier mention of Drake, would spread the word, unwittingly reinforcing the mystique surrounding my persona. This careful orchestration was not just about leaving the gala, it was about embedding myself in their memories as someone of note and mystery. The next time I saw Harper, it was at a bar that effortlessly blended sophistication with a relaxed vibe. For the occasion, I was dressed in an understated yet distinctly elegant manner, my outfit quietly shouting affluence and style. As I spotted her across the room, I approached with a confident yet warm smile. "Hey Harper, nice to see you again," I said, my tone friendly and genuine. She gave a slight pleased surprise and replied, "Nice to see you too, Idris. I didn't expect you to remember my name." Laughing lightly, I responded, "I always remember those who are self-made. It's hard to forget someone as impressive as you." As we chatted, part of me was thinking, good, she remembers my name. Stephen must have mentioned that I was heading out to meet Drake. Anyway, let me share a secret with you. A secret on how to seduce a woman. It's all about listening, make her laugh, never judge, support her passions. But while I was doing that, I was also profiling her. I was figuring out what she desired, what scared her, the little vulnerabilities she had. By the end of the night, she was captivated, and I hadn't even made a move to kiss her. That's when the real game started. The bar had that low-key buzz, the perfect backdrop when you're reeling someone in. I slid back to Harper's group, casually leaning against the counter. "So, Harper," I started, "heard you're the one to watch in the composing scene. Tell me, what's the fuel, ambition, heartbreak, a little bit of both?" She gave that half smile, the one that says she's used to praise but enjoys it all the same. All of the above, I suppose. Music's a way to take control, make something beautiful out of chaos. Control, huh? I echoed, letting the word hang. I find control overrated. Surrendering to the right kind of chaos, that's where the thrill lies. My eyes met hers, just for a second too long, a hint that Idris from Dubai might not be quite who he seems. A friend of hers chimed in, some stupid question about my business. I played the amused millionaire. Restaurants, investments, the usual boring stuff. My real passion, proving people wrong. I tossed it off lightly, but I was watching Harper's reaction. She was intrigued, a flicker behind her eyes. The conversation shifted to easy banter, but I was always circling back to her. You seem like someone with a story to tell, Harper. Bet it would make one hell of a symphony. She laughed, but beneath it there was a hesitation. Maybe one day. Right now I'm focused on the next piece. Never let the future overshadow the moment, I murmured, just loud enough for her to hear. Cliché, sure, but it's these little seeds I plant. Confusion, fascination. They're my most potent weapons. The night wound down. I offered to walk her out, playing the perfect gentleman. At her door there was a pause. Had a wonderful time, Harper. Maybe we could do this again sometime. Talk more about chaos and control. She hesitated, then smiled, a touch unsure. Maybe, and that right there, that was my victory. Harper, the untouchable, was considering breaking her own rules. She would be back for more, and I would be ready. A week went by and I did nothing, not a single text, no calls. Crickets. That was the beauty of the silent treatment, Harper. You crave control, remember? Now you had none. Then, out of the blue, I sent this simple text message, a simple invitation. Dinner tonight, my place. There's a new cello piece I'm working on, and I could use a fresh perspective. It was a calculated move. First, the vulnerability, letting her hear my work in progress. Second, the challenge, a test of her musical knowledge. It was a trap, and she walked right in, texting back a breathless, "Absolutely!" Harper arrived, her face a mix of curiosity and caution. I had studied her, the acclaimed composer, the woman who radiated independence. She was used to being desired, but I was playing a different game. The penthouse spoke for itself, a display of wealth and curated taste, with every detail chosen meticulously. I knew she would admire the art and the subtle nods to figures in her world. It was validation, a reminder that I belonged in that circle, and I could see it in her eyes, the awe mixed with a flicker of uncertainty. I played the gracious host, with a touch of aloofness that added to the mystique. I offered the tour, a carefully choreographed showcase of power. It was subtle the way I pointed out a piece of art, mentioned the sound system and the private theater. It wasn't bragging, it was setting the stage. The chef prepared dinner, the wine, the conversation flowed as smoothly as the music I chose. I let her talk about her inspirations, the frustrations of the industry. It wasn't just flattery. I had done my homework. Then the music. My cello piece echoed the storm brewing within me, the passion simmering just beneath the surface. It mirrored the city lights glittering below us. When I finished, I saw it in her eyes, respect, and something hotter, more raw. The air changed, charged with anticipation. I refilled her glass, my gaze lingering. "Harper," my voice barely a whisper. "There's a fire in you. It hides behind that control, but I see it." A heartbeat of silence followed. I savored the tension. I didn't kiss her, didn't even touch her. I let her come to me, and she did. That first tentative touch, that surrender. It made the victory all the sweeter, the illusion of her choice weaving tighter. As the night unfolded, the transition from music to a more personal connection was seamless. Every movement I made, every word I uttered, was calculated to draw Harper deeper into a world where I was the master conductor. The room, dimly lit with soft ambient lights, cast shadows that danced with our movements, creating an intimate atmosphere that blurred the line between reality and the facade I had built. I guided Harper slowly, letting her believe she was leading the way to the next step. My touch was light, deliberate, an exploration that suggested respect and admiration for her independence and achievements. Yet beneath this gentle exterior, I was keenly observing her reactions, adapting my approach to ensure she felt unique, valued, not just another conquest. "This moment," I murmured, as I led her closer to the crescendo of our encounter, "is just for you, crafted with the same care you compose your music." My words were smooth, reinforcing the idea that this experience was tailored for her, making her feel as though she was the only woman who had ever elicited such desire and dedication from me. However, the truth was far more calculated. Each gesture and each pause was designed to heighten her emotional response, to make her feel seen and understood in ways she had longed for. It wasn't just physical for Harper, it was an emotional unveiling. I was playing on her vulnerabilities, her need to be recognized not just as a powerful figure in the music world, but as a woman. As we moved together, the intimacy I orchestrated was like a piece played perfectly in time with the music of the night. It was in these moments that I had her completely, not just physically, but emotionally and psychologically. The room, the music, the conversation, all had been a prelude to this point. As morning light filtered into my apartment, I leaned close to Harper, keeping my voice soft but intentional. "You've inspired something in me last night," I told her, hinting at a deeper change, yet revealing nothing. My words were meant to stick with her, to make her wonder about who I really was, and to keep her coming back for more. Before she left, I offered one more quiet compliment. "You're incredible, Harper." There was no promise of more, no grand declarations. I watched her closely, trying to see if she was onto my game. In her eyes there was a mix of satisfaction and a hint of doubt. She might sense there was more to last night than just passion. That little bit of doubt was exactly what I wanted. It was my ace in the hole. It would pull her back to me, driven by the need to figure out if what she felt was real or just part of my game. That week after the penthouse, it was a symphony of another silence. Let her wonder. Let her doubt creep in. Make her start questioning how much of that incredible night was real. I could almost see her pacing her apartment, phone in hand, debating whether to text or not. Then finally it came. Not a gushing confession or some plea for a repeat performance. Hell no, Harper was too proud for that. Instead, it was a work inquiry, something about a collaboration with a smaller orchestra, she advised. The pitch was tentative, almost apologetic, like she knew I could see through it. I smiled. See, that was the thing about these powerful, successful women. They couldn't stand feeling out of control. The fake work offer, it was her clumsy way of taking back a sliver of power, of reminding herself she called the shots, not me. I played along, of course, expressed interest, asked some questions, and set up a meeting at a trendy cafe for further discussion. She arrived on time, impeccably dressed, trying to project an air of cool professionalism. The way she avoided my eyes told a different story. Over coffee, I dissected the opportunity. A few pointed questions, strategic pauses, and it crumbled. There was no real offer, just a vague idea she'd cooked up to justify seeing me again. I let the silence hang, letting the awkwardness wash over her. Finally, she broke. "Look, Idris," her voice was low, that composure cracking. "I enjoyed our night together." "Did you, Harper?" I leaned forward, fixing her with a look. "Because I enjoyed it very much. But enjoyment," I let the word linger, "that fades." Her cheeks flushed, the fire I'd sensed blazing to life. "I'm not some lovesick teenager," she snapped, but there was a tremor in her voice that betrayed her. "Never said you were," I countered, taking a sip of my coffee. "But tell me, Harper, what exactly is it you want from me? Because, let's be honest, this collaboration isn't it." That's when the truth spilled out. Halting confessions about sleepless nights, the lingering touch of my hands, the way my words kept echoing in her head. And beneath it all, the unspoken plea. Tell me I'm special. Tell me this is more than just another conquest. It was almost pitiful. But power, that's the ultimate aphrodisiac, and this was me taking back the reins. The meeting ended with no concrete plans, just a vague promise to explore possibilities, and a touch of doubt in her eyes that told me she'd be back. I walked out of that cafe feeling like I owned the damn city, Harper, the brilliant composer, reduced to chasing me. See, it wasn't about the sex or even the lies. It was about the game. And damn, I was good at it. Harper was hooked like a fish on a line. The occasional text, a casual lunch, a sprinkle of flirtation, just enough to keep her chasing the illusion of a deepening connection. I made her feel like she'd orchestrated this whole thing. Every accidental run-in, every conversation steered toward deeper topics. It was all me, carefully calculated moves on a chessboard where she was blissfully unaware of the game. Then, a month into this charade, I dropped the bomb. A quiet dinner, an intimate setting, a meticulously crafted confession designed to flip the script entirely. "Harper," I began, my voice laced with a manufactured sincerity, "there's something I've been wanting to tell you. The reason I held back at first." Her eyes widened, a mixture of curiosity and trepidation flickering across her face. Perfect. Time for my grand performance. "I have 2 kids," I said, letting the words hang heavy in the air. "A daughter, she's 7, and a son, 9. They're my world." I paused, letting her absorb the unexpected twist. The concern washed over her, the softening of her gaze. "Idris, why didn't you say anything before?" I gave a rueful smile. "Honestly, I thought it would scare you off. A single dad, the baggage. It's not exactly the profile of a carefree Dubai millionaire, is it?" She reached across the table, her touch hesitant but warm. "You shouldn't have hidden it. It doesn't change how I feel." "You say that now," I countered, a hint of vulnerability slipping into my tone. "But raising kids takes everything you have. I wasn't sure you'd want to be part of that chaos." And just like that, a flicker of doubt crossed her eyes. The strong and independent composer morphed into a woman desperate to prove her worth. The game had reached a whole new level. Over the following weeks, I weaved a tapestry of heartwarming stories and calculated glimpses into my dad life. Harper, always eager to prove me wrong, became a willing participant, surprising the kids with visits to the symphony. Impromptu picnics in the park, the perfect picture of a doting potential stepmother. I could almost feel sorry for her, throwing herself into this role she so desperately sought. But sympathy was a luxury I couldn't afford. This wasn't just about seduction anymore. It was about building the perfect illusion, drawing her into a world meticulously crafted to fit my twisted endgame. And with the introduction of my children, innocent pawns in my elaborate scheme, I'd found my most potent weapon yet. The game with Harper was playing out perfectly. She'd swallowed the single dad role hook, line and sinker, pouring herself into being the perfect stepmother. It was time to introduce a new player, Amelia. I spotted Amelia at a trendy art gallery opening, clinging to a gaggle of socialites who laughed a little too loudly. She was the epitome of nouveau riche, designer dress, meticulously styled hair, an air of desperation masked by an overly confident smile. Perfect. The opening line was pure theatre. "Intriguing piece," I murmured, gesturing vaguely towards a canvas splattered with pretentious shapes. "But the true potential lies in its musicality. Don't you agree?" Her carefully glossed lips parted in surprise, and I knew I had her. The conversation flowed effortlessly from there. I fed her ambition with carefully placed hints about my connections in the music industry, casually mentioning a few big names. Then, with practiced nonchalance, I dropped the bomb. "It's a shame, so much talent wasted by those who just want to chase fame. My passion is helping true artists find their voice." By the end of the evening, her eyes held that familiar gleam of adoration. It was time for phase 2. The next day, a simple text message, an intriguing melody fragment, and a request for her lyrical expertise. She arrived at my penthouse brimming with eagerness, ready to prove her worth. The stage was set, the grand piano gleaming in the afternoon light, scattered sheets of music hinting at projects in progress. And then came the surprise, my children. 2 adorable faces peeking shyly around the corner, their boisterous energy disrupting the pristine composure of the penthouse. My ex-wife lingered in the background, communicating warmth through smiles that masked her lack of English. I became the doting father, the man striving to balance his passion, his children, and even caring for their mother despite the separation. Amelia was transfixed, drawn into this unexpected world of domesticity and unwavering commitment. Her second visit was timed perfectly. The kids were away with their mother, leaving the penthouse bathed in an inviting tranquility. We started with the music, the initial pretense for her visit. But with practiced ease I shifted the focus. A glass of wine appeared, then another. Her ambition softened, replaced by a vulnerability she revealed amidst the luxurious surroundings. As the city lights sparkled below us, I wove a tapestry of words, painting a portrait of a man yearning for genuine connection. With every touch, every carefully chosen phrase, I chipped away at Amelia's polished exterior. By the time the first rays of dawn painted the city skyline, it wasn't just about physical intimacy. She clung to me with desperation, her confessions whispering of a hunger for true acceptance. In that moment, I was her confidant, her rock, the man who saw past the glitter and ambition to the woman beneath. I offered no promises, just a lingering kiss and a quiet, "There's something special about you, Amelia." It was enough. In her eyes, I wasn't just a potential lover, I was her savior, the one who would finally make her feel worthy. Juggling these two women was becoming my greatest masterpiece. Harper, the steady girlfriend, needed her routine. Fancy dinners, perfectly timed weekend escapes, so she wouldn't miss a beat with her career. Amelia, though, she was pure wildfire. Lunch dates snuck into her busy socialite schedule, late-night texts filled with promises and champagne-fueled nights where she'd beg for more. It was a hell of a rush getting stroked by two different egos. Harper, the big-time composer, ate up my support for the kids and basically reinforced that I'd tricked one hell of a woman. Amelia. She was a different kind of satisfaction. That look in her eyes when she saw me, the way she'd lose herself when I touched her. It reminded me every damn time that I was in control. These women, they were addicted to a man I'd invented, to a world that didn't even exist. The trick was to play each one like a different tune. Harper wanted forever, so I'd toss out hints about moving in, picking out gifts that whispered family man. Amelia, she lived for the chase, so we had hushed phone calls, secret meetups, the kind of stuff that'd make her pulse race. And the craziest part? The less I gave them, the harder they fell. "You're so different, Idris," Harper would say, all soft eyes and a voice that hinted at something deeper. "You keep me on my toes." And Amelia, well, she wasn't into playing games. "Screw labels," she'd growl, fingers trailing down my skin. "I just want you, all of you." Neither one suspected a thing. They were locked into their little bubbles of make-believe, blind to the fact that I was the one pulling all the strings. And me, well, let's just say I was enjoying the ride. Question was, how long could I keep playing this symphony of lies? And hey, how far was I willing to take this before everything blew up in my face? The thrill of the chase was starting to wear thin. Harper and Amelia were easy marks, predictable routines, desperate pleas for attention. The less I saw them, the more they craved it, clinging to the fabricated versions of myself I'd presented. Harper, at 32, yearned for commitment. I dangled the promise of a future with 3 kids, a picture-perfect family life. Amelia, my wild child at 22, thrived on adrenaline-fueled nights that left us breathless and spent. They were pawns in this twisted game, each playing their part perfectly. But I craved something different, a challenge. Enter Beatrice, 43, sophisticated and fiercely independent business lady. Unlike the others, she wasn't easily manipulated. The busy single dad act wouldn't work here. Beatrice saw through it instantly. Our first encounter was at a charity gala. She was surrounded by admirers, a captivating enigma radiating an aura of success. I approached her with practiced charm, offering a witty comment about the dubious artwork on display. To my surprise, she laughed, a genuine sound that sent shivers down my spine. Conversation flowed easily, intelligent and stimulating. There was a spark there, undeniable chemistry, but a different kind than what I was used to. Beatrice didn't fawn over me. She challenged me, questioned my motives with a cool detachment that intrigued me more than any woman ever had. Later that evening, as the gala wound down, I made my move. It wasn't romantic, not desperate. You seem to see right through everyone, Beatrice, I said, a hint of amusement in my voice. Do you ever feel alone? A flicker of vulnerability crossed her eyes, quickly masked by a sardonic smile. Perhaps, she conceded, but I'm not one for clinging vines, Idris. There it was, the opening. Then consider this a business proposition, I countered, leaning closer. A discreet arrangement, companionship, without the emotional baggage. Beatrice raised an eyebrow, studying me intently. Intriguing, she finally said, a hint of a challenge in her voice. Tell me more. And so began our twisted dance. Beatrice wasn't falling in love, of that I was certain. But there was a spark of desire, a need for something she wouldn't admit to herself. For me, it was the thrill of the unknown, the delicious tension of navigating uncharted territory. Beatrice became a fixture in my life, but never in the way Amelia or Harper were. Our encounters were infrequent, carefully orchestrated moments of intimacy, devoid of emotional connection. And with each encounter, a seed of doubt began to grow. Was I simply another conquest for Beatrice, just another box ticked on her list, or was there more to her aloofness than met the eye? The answer, as always, was the ultimate challenge, and for the first time, I wasn't sure I was in control. I watched Beatrice leave that morning, a smug grin on my face. Finally, another one in the bag. The night had been perfect, whispered compliments about being the best, the queen. I laid it on thick, and she'd eaten it up. For the first time, she admitted to wanting more, something real, a boyfriend and girlfriend deal. Bingo. But this victory felt different. Beatrice wasn't a pushover like Amelia, clinging for dear life. She wasn't easily fooled by promises like Harper. There was a fire in her eyes, but also a vulnerability, a hope that made me damn uncomfortable. The next few days were weird. Beatrice texted way more often, and there was an edge to it, almost possessive. She even started dropping by my place unannounced, questioning my always busy schedule. The thrill of the hunt was gone, replaced by this low-level buzz of worry, a feeling like something was about to blow up in my face. One night, we're just chilling on the couch, and out of nowhere, Beatrice drops this bomb. This thing we have, this arrangement, it feels different. I played it cool. Different? How? I don't know, she sighed, sounding kind of frustrated. There's something real about you, Idris. More than just, Whoa, real. This world I built, the lies, the juggling, none of it was real. But damn, those hopeful eyes, it messed with my head. Could I actually handle a real relationship? Keep up this whole charade forever? A year of swift moves between cities, the number of women caught in my web totaled 30. 27 had already felt the sting of a breakup, their hearts heavy with betrayal. But now, 3 ongoing relationships lingered on a precipice, each marked by a looming end. Harper, along with 2 other women named Claudia and Mia, shared a common thread beyond their intimacy with me. They were pregnant. My usual exits were cold, calculated, but these required a semblance of delicacy I rarely employed. Yet, when it came time to address the situation, my approach was brutally straightforward. You never asked for my permission, I told each in turn, my tone void of warmth. I have no plans for kids in the near future. Their emotional pleas met with my unwavering detachment, a stark reminder of the chasm between our realities. The aftermath of these confrontations rippled far beyond the immediate heartache. Word of my callous departures spread unpredictably, lighting sparks of rage and unity among the women I had deceived. A network formed initially as a support group, but quickly evolving into a force of collective action. They were no longer isolated victims. They were allies, bent on exposing the truth of my betrayals. Among them, a particularly determined figure emerged. Elise, a tech-savvy entrepreneur who had quietly been gathering digital evidence of my escapades. With meticulous precision, she documented messages, emails, and testimonies from the women involved. This dossier, potent and damning, found its way into the hands of a keen, investigative journalist. The story that followed didn't just whisper of my misdeeds, it shouted them into the public sphere. The invitation came unexpectedly. A sleek black envelope slipped under my door. It offered a generous sum, enough to pique my curiosity despite the sparse details. The request was for me to play the cello at a private event, an anonymous patron, a secluded venue. Something about it didn't sit right, but the musician in me, starved for a stage since my fall from grace, couldn't resist the allure. The venue was an opulent mansion on the outskirts of the city, its halls draped in velvet and shadows, lit by the soft glow of candlelight. The guests were already gathered, a sea of masks and murmured conversations, creating an atmosphere reminiscent of an occult gathering rather than a social event. I settled myself on the stage, the familiar weight of the cello between my knees providing a strange comfort amidst the unnerving setup. As I drew the bow across the strings, the first notes filled the room with a melancholic melody. The piece was one of my favorites, a complex, emotional composition that always seemed to bear part of my soul to the audience. But tonight, it felt like an elegy to my past life. When the piece ended, the room fell eerily silent. Then, one by one, the guests began to remove their masks. The first face was unmistakable, Harper, her eyes not just reflecting the candlelight, but also a blaze of anger and pain. As more masks came off, the reality of the situation dawned on me. All 30 women, each a chapter of my tumultuous past, were here. The air shifted palpably. A symphony of voices rose, not in applause, but in an outpouring of rage. Fruits, vegetables, and wine flew towards the stage, a surreal, chaotic protest against the man who had wronged them so deeply. Their shouts filled the room, each word a reminder of the hurt I had inflicted. Yet, I had anticipated this. The truth was, I knew this confrontation was inevitable. Their expressions of anger and betrayal, their need for closure, or perhaps just revenge. I remained calm, my eyes meeting theirs one by one, accepting the onslaught as my due penance. When the storm subsided, I stood, bow in hand, and addressed the room. "Thank you for attending my concert," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil. "Have a beautiful day." With that, I left the stage. My exit neither rushed nor slow, but measured, mirroring the resignation and resolve I felt inside. I could say it was part of my plan. I knew we'd end up in a situation somewhat like this, but having all 30 women listening to my music while masked, thinking they'd achieved their revenge, was something even I hadn't expected. It was almost magical. The event got recorded and it went viral on the internet almost instantly. I have to admit, that wasn't part of my plan, but it happened, and so be it. Leaving them with one unanswered question was, in a way, my masterpiece. They all had one lingering doubt. Why did Idris do this to us? I do hope they find the answer someday, but for now, there isn't one. Among all these women, Beatrice stood out. It almost felt like she liked me for who I really am, not the person I'd crafted. She texted me, asking to meet one last time, promising it would be private with no recordings. I invited her to my place and she came over. "Idris, I have to admit, you've pulled off something wild. 30 women, wow. You are a master at this," she began, her voice tinged with a mix of admiration and incredulity. "I thought I saw right through you from the start, but even I was fooled." She paused, her expression serious, clearly wanting to dive deeper. "But I don't get one thing. Why would you do it? As a businesswoman, fooling 30 women a year seems like a full-time job. But why?" See, Beatrice wasn't judging me. She wasn't out for revenge. She was the 31st woman, the one relationship that wasn't really a relationship. It was just physical from my side. And she hadn't attended that mask show either. So I thought maybe I could tell her my story. "Beatrice, first off, let's get something straight. My name is Joshua and I'm an American. That whole millionaire Idris persona, that was all made up, obviously. My appearance, which isn't typically Middle Eastern, was easily explained. An American mother and an Arab father accounted for it. The penthouse was rented. The kids and my ex-wife were paid actors. Anyway, my story begins with Jane, my first love, who I thought was true love. Back in college, I was a completely different person. I treated her like a queen, genuinely did everything she wanted. And it sounds like something Idris would do, but trust me, I was nothing like Idris then. I was just this average nice guy, too nice that I often ended up in the friend zone. And I did. One day, I found out she was cheating on me with this total jerk. I didn't understand what she saw in him at the time, but I get it now. She liked him because he was the bad boy, and I was the good guy. When I confronted her about the cheating, she just said she wanted to break up, that it was getting too boring with me. We could be friends, though, she laughed. That's it, Beatrice interjected, surprised. You did all this because of her? You wanted to get your revenge on other women? No, that wasn't the start. It just happened. I was hurt. I got over it eventually. But then Catherine came into my life. She was the total opposite of Jane. Kind, loved spending time with me, super smart, kind of a nerd. She didn't cheat on me. That wasn't her style. Beatrice was growing impatient, cutting in mid-story. Wow, Idris, this is getting interesting, but if Catherine did nothing wrong, what really happened then? Joshua, I corrected her, then continued. Catherine was something else. I could have ended up marrying her. But she broke up with me, and her reason was ridiculous. She said, Joshua, you're too good for me, almost ideal, and I don't think I like it. Sorry, but I want to break up. Beatrice jumped in again. I don't see any connection here. Your past and these women. It's simple, I explained. I was hurt, but more than that, I almost lost all my self-confidence, not just with women, but in interacting with anyone. I thought I was no good at life, even considered ending it one day. But I didn't follow through. Instead, one day I found myself wandering into a library, and without even realizing it, I started looking at relationship books. That's when I found The Art of Seducing. That book changed my life. After a few failures, I finally got the techniques to work. The first woman I successfully seduced said things I had never heard before. How amazing I was. How I was the best thing that had happened in her life. That didn't form my plan, but it was the start. I continued practicing those techniques, and they kept working. My real aha moment came later. I loved music, wanted to. Succeed in that field, using the same techniques I could make it. But with the ladies, I was just trying to show the world that the bad guy really is a bad guy, that women should wake up and start seeing the good guys. My intentions were simple, but it wouldn't work with just one woman. It had to be many, especially famous, rich women. They'd be perfect for it. You wanted your answer. I've given it to you. Beatrice looked stunned, a mix of confusion and amazement playing across her face as she tried to wrap her head around everything I'd just spilled. She took a deep breath, steadying herself before she spoke. Joshua, this is a lot to take in, she said with a calm that belied the storm I knew was raging inside her. You've given me, and all those women, a glimpse into why you did what you did. It doesn't change the past, but it does offer some understanding. She got up to leave, her movements deliberate as she headed toward the door. Just as she reached it, she paused and turned back to face me. Her expression was thoughtful, almost wistful. You know what? I could have fallen for Joshua, but not for Idris, she said quietly, her words hanging in the air between us. With those final words, Beatrice walked out, leaving me to ponder the stark difference between the man I was and the man I could have been. Years later, I found myself at a community center, preparing to give a talk on the importance of integrity and honesty in relationships. The room was filled with young faces, eager and unmarked by the scars of deceit. As I looked out at them, I felt a deep sense of responsibility to guide them away from the paths I had once walked, to encourage them to build relationships on trust and respect rather than manipulation and falsehood. The last notes of my presentation lingered in the air. Remember, I concluded, our actions echo far beyond our immediate sight. They touch lives in ways we might never fully understand. Always strive to be someone who adds value, who respects, and who loves honestly. Be the good in someone's life, not the lesson they warn others about. As the audience clapped, a young man approached me, his eyes curious and earnest. How do you change when you've made so many mistakes? He asked. You start by accepting responsibility, I answered, meeting his gaze. You learn, you grow, and you dedicate every day to being better than you were the day before. It's never too late to change the narrative of your life. Walking out of the community center that evening, I felt a peace I hadn't known in years. The journey was far from over, but for the first time in a long time, I was hopeful. Not because I had erased my past, but because I was finally learning from it, making it a foundation for a better, more honest future. The story of Idris, the man who played games with hearts, was over. The story of Joshua, the man learning to mend them, was just beginning.